Well, hello, Bob Dendry here, and welcome back to another Fresh Friday. We are here today playing Computer Tycoon, which is an early access game. It's been in early access, I think, for actually quite a while, but the developers have been putting a lot of work into it from what I've seen anyway. So we're going to jump in. As you can see from the main menu, we've got sort of a bootleg Steve Jobs here. And we are going to jump in and start a brand new computer company. So, we're going to go with historical. And we're going to call ourselves Jeeves Stobbs, obviously, because it is who we are. And our company name is going to be called Guava. Other than that, we're just going to leave all the options, etc., all the same. And let's jump in and play. Alright, so here we are in game. We're not going to play the tutorial. I have already played a little bit of the game, but not too much. So we'll skip through. Basically, you start off in, it says 1972 here, but when you skip the tutorial, I believe it actually skips to 1974. And you are starting a computer company with, well, I guess a mate of yours maybe. And essentially you need to put together computers, design them, design all the components for them, market them, decide what markets you're going to actually release them to, all of that stuff. So we're going to start off by rolling our character traits, and then we can get in and start building computers. I also have a cat joining me on the desk today, so if you hear random cat noises, that's what it is. So let's get rolling. And I'm thinking I would like myself to be probably decent at accounting and charisma at a minimum, but we'll see how we go. So we're just going to do a little bit of rolling. I think this is probably a decent character. They're sort of a jack of all trades, master of none type character, so we can sort of mold them into the image that we want as we move on with our career. And we also get to roll our business partner here as well. And I'm thinking we want someone who's decent at manufacturing and logistics, which this person is. So we're actually going to start off with David Cool here. And we moved into our first office. So I'm going to go through in detail the process of building your first computer. And then we'll sort of just try and play fast and loose from there. And hopefully not go bankrupt. So let's get started on our first home computer. You've got 4 designs you can use, but obviously this is the very start of the game, so you only have the one to actually build to start with, and you need to research further components and stuff to unlock the rest. Alright, so here we are, and you can see that we've got all these slots we can potentially fill up. Ones with a red border are required, ones with sort of a grey border are optional. And where you've got this red screwdriver here, you're actually missing a component you need to have research to be able to use or to create such components. So we're going to start from left to right, and we'll get jumped in. You start with like very few options at the very beginning, so you do sort of just need to make do with whatever you can. So we've got DIP memory, which are probably a familiar sort of stereotypical computer chip image. And what I've noticed as well from my very brief foray in the game is that, so this star here is quality points, and adding heat sinks to things, even if they don't need it. So you've got your temperature here, it's level 1, which is the lowest. It doesn't produce any heat. Regardless, if you add on a heat sink, it's not that much more of an expense, and you get heaps more quality points. So my lesson so far is to add heat sinks to absolutely everything. But we're going to start off with probably a sort of a fairly mid-range chip. Let's go with memory clocks of about 2.49 megahertz and a capacity of 1 kilobyte, which is really funny to think of considering the computer I'm playing this on has 64 gigabytes of RAM, and we've got 1 kilobyte in our first. And what are we going to call it? Let's give it just a code name that you probably can't understand. So I'm going to call it the Guava DIP 24901. Bonus points if you work out the nomenclature of the computer parts I'm creating in this one. So that's created. We're going to add it to our computer, and you can see it there now. And we need to move on now to our CPU, which once again, not much to choose from here. We've got a 4040. We can add a little bit of memory to it. And we can also add a heatsink to it, which once again is not required, but gives us a heap of quality points. So of course we're going to do it. And once again, we're going to go mid-range, which is going to be around about 249. If you know how to actually precisely set those things, let me know. And we're going to call it the Guava 4040 249, not 269, 249. And that is done. Let's get it into the computer. Storage is optional, but I mean, what's a computer without a bit of storage, right? So we're going to get a Winchester drive with a heatsink, of course. And we'll up the quality a little bit and the performance a little bit as well. And for capacity, let's just go with a 256 kilobyte drive. Shove that in there. Power supply, much of a muchness. I don't even need to name it, it's just a power supply. Our motherboard, which once again we don't have many options for, but we'll get stick a few unnamed features in there. Our operating system, and we're going to call it Guava OS. And I think we're going to try and make it heaps useful with a few features. And finally, our optional display. We will use a display, but yeah, there's no sort of real features or anything you can really add in at this stage. We're just going to make it a fairly mid-range one. Okay, so you can see everything that we can use so far. So we don't have any removable media and we don't have any GPUs available because we haven't researched those technologies yet. But other than that, we've got everything else we need. So we're going to move on to determining the pricing. Now, the tutorial recommends you start at about 8,000 for pricing. I think we're going to try and undercut just a little bit. Let's go for 7,000. Our marketing, as we discover more sort of things about our audiences, we can tailor our marketing more towards those preferences, but we don't have anything at the moment as it's the start of the game. And casuals is just what we're going to go for the moment. And once we move on to release, we can use some extra time to polish the product, which allows us to add some extra capacity, quality, all of these things. Actually, I'm not sure if it changes capacity, but we'll soon find out. But it adds just a small bit to all the other sort of ratings here. And you've got 30 days to do that. So we're going to put this into test. We are still...
model went into the testing phase.
We've gone into the testing phase, as you just heard, and we are still paused. And I'm going to leave it paused just for a few extra minutes while we start to build up some infrastructure that we'll need. So designing computers is only part of the journey that you go through. You also need to establish offices, where your factories, where your research occurs, all of that. And we can do that from the world map, which I'm going to go to now. Now, we can have multiple factory sites. I don't know if there's even a limit to how many you can have, but there probably is. And if we look at what the tutorial recommends for us, tutorial recommends going for poorer nations for your manufacturing and filthy rich nations for your research. So we'll start by establishing some manufacturing. And the lighter the color here, the poorer the nation is. So we've got Taiwan there, which, or Republic of China, to be more politically correct. And it probably makes sense to start producing there is obviously there's a lot of manufacturing in Taiwan in real life. So we're going to build a site by pressing this blue button here. See, we've got some costs. And we now go to that site. So for manufacturing, we need to select a factory and hit build. So that will allow us to manufacture our computers and get them shipped off. Other thing I'm going to go ahead and establish now is logistics as well. And we need logistics to be able to ship out the computers that we're manufacturing here. But you don't necessarily need to have logistics and manufacturing in the same place if there's some reason you don't want to have them. But we'll get building there as well. And second site we're going to build is where our research is going to take place. So we're wanting a filthy rich place, which is one of these very dark brown areas. And I think we're going to go with Ireland here. It has a lower tax rate than Switzerland and Norway, which are our other sort of European filthy rich countries. So we're going to go ahead. For some reason it's popped up the button up there, but I can just get to it there, I think. We'll establish a site and we're going to build the research laboratory here. Okay, so we're now right to return to our office and hit the play button. And we now need to select some research as well. Now there's a massive tech tree here. Like goes all the way from the 1970s to like a future era with like biomemory and molecular GPUs and stuff like that. But we're going to start at the very beginning. And I think a good place to start is to look at your manufacturing nodes, your VLSI and your 10 nanometers. Which in fact that's not nanometers, that's micrometers, which is crazy because my CPU is all the way over here, 7 nanometers. But if we go through and we research these,
The new computer model is polished.
it will allow us to produce components more cheaply. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll do those to start with. And I might just add on just a couple of other small research parts here. So the S100 bus, and we'll go for a keyboard and a CLI so we can produce a more user-friendly operating system. But as you just heard, our computer is now polished, so we can release it. So we're going to go market. One thing I've forgotten to do is to select the market we're actually releasing it to. So if we go to our market list down here, basically what we need to look at, probably rich or filthy rich countries, but I'll start with a rich one, where we have a relatively low reseller cut and tax rate, but a high population. So that'll allow us to make more money on what we're actually selling here. So Australia is probably an option. They're 20 and 20 with a decent population, but not too big. And we've got a couple of sort of smaller nations, but we've only got 5 and 5% there, which is good, but the population is very low, so we're not actually going to sell that many. Italy is an option as well, 30 and 20 compared to 20 and 20, but the much higher population. So we're going to do that. Now we basically need to select how many logistics points we're going to use. So we've got 1 at the moment. And you increase the logistics points you have by building more logistics buildings in your sites that you've purchased. So we'll start with 1 and we'll just see how we go here. So we're going to press play and see how it looks. Now our demanded production points here and our actual how many production points we have, there's a bit of a disconnect. So we're not actually shipping as many. Well, we have some stored production points right now, which we've stored up by being idle, but after those run out, we're going to be shipping half as many as people are wanting. That's a problem for us. So what I might quickly do as well, if we go back to our sites, we're going to build a logistics center over here in Ireland as well. So that will give us, no, sorry, we don't want to do that. We want to build more manufacturing. That'll give us up to 500,000 production points per day. It also increases the cost by a lot. So it's a fine sort of balance. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I will actually introduce or build up a logistics. We need an office to do that. My bad. We will introduce some logistics at Island as well. That'll allow us to ship, or to have twice as much demand that we can cater for. So we're going to do both. The logistics isn't as expensive, so that's fine. We can absorb that, but the manufacturing is quite expensive. So we need to make sure we've got plenty of demand to actually utilize that. But as you can see now, our stored production points are all done, and our demand's still, you know, more than what we can actually produce. That means we're not shipping as many products, which we're losing money. We've now upgraded the production facilities so we can now cater for a higher demand. We're still losing money though because we have higher costs now. There's a couple of things we can do to remedy that.
Building upgrade has completed.
We have higher logistics now, so we can ship more, which I'm going to go and do. So what we'll do, we'll go to our Italy market and we'll actually increase our reseller coverage to 2 logistics points. That reduces our reseller cut and also, I believe, allows us to actually, or gives us more demand as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. And we're going to shift down our price just a little bit to try and encourage more people to purchase. As you can see, our deficit is starting to reduce as well. We'll reduce it by $1,000. And as you can see, I was going to say our demand shot up. It's gone back down again though. We might just reduce that again and see if we can get some more demand. Still fairly flat. Let's have a look and see what our competitors are doing. So we are selling a lot more than our competitors. Theirs are also a lot cheaper than ours base price as well, so that's something we may need to keep in mind. But we're going to kick on, we're going to keep going, and we might just let this run for a little bit and hopefully get some more technologies researched. Another thing we can do to optimize how we work is we can utilize our managers on certain tasks. For example, we can, so we'll have a look at the skills. So we've got manufacturing and logistics here with David Cool as sort of his main strengths. So what we can do, we can either give him an active task, which are more based on sort of soft skills, right? So charisma, marketing, etc. Or we can give him a passive task where we can like assign him to optimize the logistics or something like that. As you can see, he's saying 110 out of 100 for his logistics. I don't know how that works. But we'll assign him to do some logistics over in Republic of China. What we'll do for ourselves, we will assign us to research. So we should get a mega increase on our research points as well, which should make things a little bit quicker. So we've just researched our first technology, being the VLSI, and we're going to get the 10 micrometer production node out. And then we will basically do a relaunch of our current computer, but with the better production node, which should decrease our costs. As you can see up here, our market share is slowly falling. Obviously, we've got competitors releasing new home computers that potentially are a little bit better in terms of their capabilities than ours, so we are slowly losing that share. They're also cheaper as well. But you can see our demand is starting to shift down a little bit, but it's still, you know, keeping quite high, which is good. In the space I've been talking about that, we've gone down from market share of about 45% or so down to like 25.
You have researched a new technology.
I think I'm going to try and hold out until we finish researching CLI. That'll give us a much more user-friendly experience in terms of the operating system, which should hopefully get more people on board purchasing our computers. I'm also going to research the glass teletype, which will give us a better monitor that we can use as well, which will only take 16 days. So that should be fine to quickly chuck in before we finish off our next computer build as well. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get started on the Guava Sharon 2, let's call it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take my existing design and we're going to go copy design. And basically what we can do here, we can do the same with all of our components as well. And we can sort of use that to determine whether or not we actually need to refresh these components or if we can leave them the same. So I'll go copy and you'll see that we've got more options. So our...
We've researched a new technology.
Thank you very much. Our 10 micrometer node significantly reduces our cost, as you can see.
Technology.
I'm just going to chuck on pause now because we don't have any research in our queue while we build our next computer. So 10 micrometers cuts our cost, VLSI cuts our cost as well. And what we might do here is increase the base clock, probably the capacity a bit, so we've got a bit more cache as well. And the multiplier will pop up to the highest value of 2. And let's have a look. Actually, we're not going to pop up the multiplier. I think we might leave it just to, once again, try and keep the cost a little bit lower. But we're going to call this now. It's not cache, that's the memory. What am I talking about? This is a RAM, not CPU. Well, not RAM, it's memory. Okay, so we'll create that one. And double click it. This is actually a little bit more expensive than our old one, but that's okay. We'll open up the CPU, we'll do the same here. And once again, we're cutting the cost by a fair bit. We'll leave the multiplier the same. We will modestly increase the base clock though. Storage, what can we do there? Nothing. I think we'll use the same storage, save a bit on costs so we don't have to develop it. Power supply I think is much the same. I don't think we have anything we can do with that as of yet, actually. Let's just check just to make sure I'm not making that up. Yeah, so if we go copy, it's the same. So that is fine. Motherboard, we can definitely make some changes to. So once again, we've got that lower, smaller production node. We can add on this new bus, but I don't think we necessarily... Well, I say we don't necessarily need it, which we don't, but it does increase our feature scores. So I think we will keep it. Our operating system, we can absolutely improve and use the CLI. So let's just go back and have a look at that again. So we've got our existing OS here, and you'll see that with opcode system, it has OBS. That means it's obsolete. So what we can do, if we remove that one, we can select the essentially replacement for that, CLI. Perfect. And we're going to call this the Guava OS 2. And finally, our monitor. We're just going to create a new one. Glass teletype. We've got an actual screen now. Not going to give it a name. Okay. And we are all good to go now. So pricing, once again, we'll start with that quite high. Now let's have a look at marketing. So we now know that our casuals like features. So we're going to pop that up a bit. I think I might pop performance down potentially. And we will do a little bit of a marketing campaign as well. And maybe let's go radio for our casuals and see if we get any results from that. And let's get testing and polishing.
Went into the testing phase.
Okay, and for the final computer we'll be putting out in this episode, I think we'll do something a little bit special. So we've got the Guava Cheetah X that we've just produced, I should say, and we are going to go for the Guava Mountain Lion. And we've got some fun new technologies that we can play with as well. So if we pop over to the RAM, let's take our most recent RAM and copy it. And we now have DRAM. And the 1.5 micrometer production node. So that is pretty cool. Which means we've got much higher base clocks, much higher capacities. Look at that. Wow. It's pretty cool. So we're going to go with a nice 256 kilobyte. So we can now call it DDR RAM. Alright, no, it's not DDR actually, it's just DRAM. It's not double data rate at this point. So we can create that. Our CPU, once again, we can copy our existing one, and you'll notice we now have an 86 CPU. Look at that, that's pretty cool. Reduce the production node again, and we will build a bit of specialized DRAM into it as well. And we might clock this one in at around about 3.79 megahertz. This is going to be like performance through the butt. It'll be a Guava 286 1890. And we've got a small fan on it already to increase the quality, of course. Create that one, pop it into our computer. GPU could use an upgrade as well. Give it some DRAM as well. And look at all that memory we can use. So we'll go with 64 kilobytes. Our motherboard as well. We don't need an SCSI anymore because we're using ATA, so that will decrease our costs, as will switching the production node over as well. So excellent stuff. And everything else is all good. We've got a massive 137 quality. It's quite loud, but it's okay. And our pricing is once again going to be a top of the line model. We will send this one the way of gamers. This is going to be our big push. We're going to go for a big marketing campaign on this one. And let's get it testing.
Model went into the testing phase.
And let's go. This is our make or break moment. We need to sell a crap ton of these. Go. And we're not selling a crap ton, but we are making a profit. We've got a lot of logistics points, so we might quickly slow down. A couple of things we're going to do. We are going to retire Guava Cheetah, which should reduce some of our costs. And we're going to look at our markets as well. So let's have a look at our existing markets first. So we're going to put more logistics towards the US. So double our logistics there. We'll put more towards Italy, as we're actually not dominant there, unfortunately. And let's have a look and see what markets we have to take advantage of now. Japan's a big market. Let's go and start shipping out to Japan as well. Let's see how we go now. Look at that. It's lovely. We might pop down the price just a little bit. We did go out as a premium product, so we're doing quite well in terms of demand, to be honest, based on that. So let's go in at 5,999. We are over our production capacity and we're making a crap ton of money, which is excellent. So all in all, we're doing really well, and I think we will pretty much be finishing up here now. It's a fun game. It markets itself as a business grand strategy. I don't know if I'd really call it a grand strategy, though. It's reasonably in-depth, but there's still some quite simplified parts of it. So, but once again, it is in early access, I should say. It's been in early access for quite a while, but it looks like the creators are putting a lot of work into polishing it and really taking on board the community suggestions. So I'd recommend giving it a go if you if this is something that you're interested in and it looks fun to you. But for the moment, we'll leave it there. So my name is Bob Dendry. This has been Computer Tycoon. It's now 1985 and we actually are now moving into a new office. So we can hire new managers. I mean, it still looks pretty basic looking office, but yeah, this is Computer Tycoon. Take a look at it. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you get a ding to your device the next time I post a video. You can see the links to my social media in the description, as well as the link to my Discord server. If you're interested in getting involved, hop on over to the Discord server and I'm always happy to have a chat. But until next time, thanks so much for watching and goodbye.